roll.
Yes, ma'am. Lisa Eastep.
Here.
David Wortman.
Here.
Stephanie Adams.
Here.
Nelson Beaulieu.
Here.
Judy Justice.
Here.
Jeanette Nichols.
Here.
Bill Rivenbark.
Here.
All right, thank you. The only item that we have on the agenda for today is interviews for the Cape Fear Community College Board of Trustees. These interviews will be conducted in an open session. I did email the board some procedural guidelines. Since this is an open session interview, the vote will happen similarly to how we vote for chair and vice chair. After the interviews conclude, the floor will be open for nominations and seconds. The candidate that receives a consensus vote will be the nominee. Are there any questions on that procedure? Okay, if not, we do have 7 interview questions, and I believe all board members, you should have copies of those questions. Since there are 7 questions, 7 of us, I think we should, if it pleases the board, we'll just take those in alphabetical order. So Ms. Adams will ask the first question, Mr. Beaulieu second, I'll ask the third, Ms. Justice fourth, Ms. Nichols fifth, Mr. Rivenbark the sixth, Mr. Wortman the seventh. Any questions there?
Yes, I think this is the same question that last year I was asking. Number 6, whereas the community college administration and the board has asked that our appointee have an industry-focused background. That is such a vague term, industry-focused in a sense, and I think we had the same discussion last year. Is there any way to tighten it up, change it, or eliminate it?
Actually, Ms. Justice, your question number 4, responsibility, what responsibility do you think the appointee has to the Board of Education and the students? Question 6 is Mr. Rivenbark, and to your point, I did mention to the board last meeting that I would be trying to reach out to the Trustees Association representative. She has had some issues that I was not able to reach her, so I was not able to discuss any questions with her. So I did not want to change or alter any questions, any interview questions, without discussing it with the board. So as of now, these are the questions that we have. I would suggest that we proceed forward with these, unless we can agree on changing that question right now.
As I said, the vagueness is just.
Someone could suggest.
It's going to be interesting because it is hard to, yeah.
Yep, I hear you, and I apologize. I was not able to. It was not through lack of trying, I assure you.
I believe that. Yeah, I know that. Well, thank you for trying. Maybe by next year we can, if we do, well, if we have any other situation, we can.
Yes, I think that we would
identify that.
Yep.
Well, there are probably some candidates that have a industry focused background.
Well, industry is a very broad term.
I know.
Wow, that's just what my concern was.
Well, I think what we can do is just see, how the candidates answer that question, and then maybe take what you can from that, from the answer.
Absolutely. All right, thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome. Okay, if there are no further questions at this time, we do have our first candidate scheduled for 5 o'clock, and we are at 5:04. So Ms. Adams, is Ms. Carlson available?
Yes, she is. She's on with you.
Okay. Ms. Carlson, can you hear me?
I can.
All right. Thank you for being here and for applying for this position. I would like to welcome you on behalf of the Board of Education. And I think you probably heard what we we're talking about, we do have a list of 7 questions for you. If you don't have anything right off the get-go, we will go ahead and get started. Would that be acceptable to you?
Sure.
Ms. Carlson?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, so we're going to go to any other candidates that are on. We're going to go ahead and go in order. And so we'll be talking to Ms. Carlson first, and then we'll proceed on from there. Okay? Like I said, this is an open session. It's a little bit different, obviously, with the fact that we are all virtual. So if any other candidates that are on, if you could all please be patient with us, and we will move through everybody in turn.
Does that mean we need to turn this off?
No, sir. This is open session.
Okay.
So you are free to sit in on any or all part of the meeting that you would like.
So that means they will hear the questions well in advance?
Ooh.
Well, I can't say it's well in advance, but yes, they will hear the questions.
And the responses of others?
Correct.
Wow, the last person has an advantage then. Okay.
A little bit. All right, Ms. Carlson, are you ready?
Sure,
No.
go right ahead.
All right. So Ms. Adams, go ahead.
Sure, I'm going to start with the first question, and let me just one other thing to add. If you are not speaking, you probably want to put your camera on mute. So just overall, very nice to meet you, Ms. Carlson. Thank you for being here today. The first question is, what skills, experiences, or attributes will you bring to this position?
Sure. Well, I've worked in nonprofits for the last 2 decades, and I began in special education. So spent a lot of time creating plans and working with folks to kind of get them where they want to be. And I did a lot there, but realized that if I went back and pursued my master's degree in social work, that I could bring that skill set to a bigger population. And then my work as the executive director of Access of Wilmington, now I have the finance piece, as well as working with other board members and doing a lot of community collaboration with partners.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
How you doing, Ms. Carlson? I have the second question. What do you see as the role of the appointee?
I think some of the most important things about being a board member, one is flexibility and availability. And I know that is for our board. So being able to get folks engaged and that are passionate about what's going on for the agency. So I do have a conflict of interest. I have a student that goes to Cape Fear. I have 2 more at UNCW, so I'm fairly well balanced. But it's made it's made me very passionate about Cape Fear and why that's such a resource in the community, how it supports folks, especially folks with disabilities. Huge difference. And it kind of gives folks that leg up to get to where they want to be, which is, it's kind of what you do when you're a social worker.
Ms. Carlson, this is Lisa Eastep. What do you see as the role of the Board of Trustees to Cape Fear Community College?
The most important piece of the board is accountability and innovation, just to kind of make sure that we're doing what we say we want to do and steering the organization, not just at the present, but really looking into the future of what we'd like to see happen and how we could grow.
Thank you.
Hello there, Ms. Carlson, and thank you for coming today and applying. What responsibility do you think the appointee has to the New Hanover County Board of Education and the students of the school system?
One of those big pieces is that engagement piece. If you're not passionate and you're not willing to show up and do the work, there's no reason to sit on the board. I either need someone's wealth, wisdom, or worker, and you have to at least give 2 out of 3.
Okay. Hi, Ms. Carlson. This is Jeanette Nichols. Cape Fear Community College serves many roles within the community. Can you articulate the different focuses?
Well, some of the programs I know that you have are that you have that high school program. My internship was with Coastal Horizon Center, so we did a lot of resource and referrals to Cape Fear for programs that kind of met the needs of folks who without that high school program really probably would not walked away with being able to graduate. And everybody knows that there's a huge difference between a high school diploma and a GED as far as where income goes. It makes a big difference in our community as far as what the economic burden looks like. And I won't get too into the data side, but that's really important to me. I'm a veteran and I'm married to a veteran, and my oldest child is a veteran, so I know a lot about your veteran services and the role that that plays in making sure that college is an option for folks who have served in the military, or perhaps they have a parent with a disability, and that's why they're coming to Cape Fear. My child also uses disability services, and I'm really excited about that Teach partnership because for kids with autism, like my daughter, it really lessens the fear when she kind of starts to understand the expectations of the outside world before she graduates.
Thank you.
Ms. Carlson, I'm Bill Rivenbark. My question is, the Community College Administration and the board has asked that our appointee have an industry-focused background. How does your candidacy match that request?
Sure. Well, with my education background and then my graduate degree in social work, I think that advocacy piece ties in, as well as my work as an executive director and a parent.
Thank you.
Ms. Carlson, how can, this is David Wharton, how can the New Hanover County Schools and Cape Fear Community College work together to best serve our students?
I think the biggest piece is listening and really sitting down and understanding with different community groups what is needed. It's very easy for me to sit in a place and decide something for someone, which is not helpful. There's no buy-in, and then folks aren't going to matriculate. And that's what we're all looking for, is just getting folks to that next step. We want highly educated professional folks to work jobs here in Wilmington so that Wilmington is sustainable. So I would say the key piece is that listening piece to the community.
Ms. Carlson, those are all the questions we have. We appreciate your responses and your time. You are welcome to stay on the meeting if you want. We do have 4 other candidates to talk to, and then we'll, as you may have heard, we will be taking a vote at the conclusion of our interviews.
Great, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Mr. Frank Carter. Mr. Carter, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So as you, I believe, heard, that we do have 7 questions. And if it is acceptable to you, we will go ahead and get started with those questions.
Sure.
All right. Again, thank you for your interest in this position. Ms. Adams?
Good evening, Mr. Carter. My name is Stephanie Adams. Thank you for being here. First question, what skills, experiences, or attributes will you bring to this position?
I was a teacher, both high school and community college, for 36 of my 40 years since I graduated college. And I think I'm well versed in most every level of education. I don't think I've met the student yet that I didn't feel like was capable of doing the kind of work that I assigned and that I could evaluate. So I think my years of teaching experience are very important. In addition to that, I did chair Humanities and Fine Arts at CFCC for 12 years. And in that 12-year period, I got pretty good management skills, I think, and people skills. So those are two things that I think are very important. And third, let me say that at the beginning of my career, I worked in the Greensboro Public Schools, my first job as an emergency school assistance person, hired to assist in the smooth desegregation of the Greensboro schools in 1972. It was a powder keg situation, and I learned a lot from being in that role. And I also learned a lot from the supervisors I had to help me work in the public information and publications portion of a public school system.
Thank you very much.
Was there something else?
Sorry. Sorry. Virtual meetings. How you doing, Mr. Carter? I have a second question. What do you see as the role of the appointee?
Well, I think on any board, an appointee is there to provide oversight, to look carefully at the fiscal responsibilities of the college, and to be a monitor of those things, to be a part of the community so that when you go out in the community, people see you as a representative of CFCC, and they know your position, and they know that they can talk to you about the college. And there are several aspects of board membership that I have served on Arts Council boards, and I've been on several other things that were important to me in learning what a board really does. I have understood in years they do not micromanage, and that's one of the things that I was careful to do on any of the boards I've served on, because people are talented. People are hired because of their talents, and it's kind of like when I hired faculty members at CFCC. Yes, I went to their classrooms, and yes, I did evaluate their teaching performance. But at the same time, I never hired anybody that I thought I'd have to fire because of their inabilities. And I think the board should look at the talents of all the people who are working in the college and take advantage of those talents to make a better school.
Thank you.
Mr. Carter, what do you see as the role of the Board of Trustees to Cape Fear Community College?
Well, I was in the college a long time, and I feel like the college did probably its largest advance in total enrollment and in course offerings and all of these aspects that make up the college. We advanced greatly from 1997 when I entered it until 2012 when I retired. And one of the things that I noted that our board was always very supportive of new ideas, innovations in learning, innovations in building. Of course, we built a lot of buildings in that time period. And they were, that board, and I would like to be that kind of board member that can look ahead, have some vision of what the college is going to look like, not next week, but next year, the year after, and 20 years hence. I was very lucky to work with Dr. McKeithen, who had a super visionary ability, and he could see a lot of things in the future and crossed a lot of bridges that helped us to cross them as faculty and staff members at the college.
Hello, Mr. Carter. I'm Judy Justice, and I appreciate you coming in today. And sure. I'm going to ask, okay, good. And I'm asking number 4, what responsibility do you think the appointee has to the New Hanover County Board of Education and the students of our school system?
I think keeping you apprised of the activities of the college. We're all educators under this roof, and no matter what level, I think the board member is responsible to the organization that appoints that board member, to keep them apprised, informed, and to keep them abreast of new things that may be happening on a state, federal, or a national level as well. There's a lot of reading to do, a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of research to be done when you're on a board. And you want to look at other boards around the country and see some of the things they do to move their colleges forward. And I believe that you, as a board member in education, need to know what I'm doing in order to keep abreast of all the things that are happening nationwide and statewide in community colleges. I was fortunate to have been president one year, but always a member of the College Transfer Program Association. And in that organization, we tried to create a smooth process for the transfer of a student from the community college into the university system. And in that process, I learned a lot. I learned tons of things about the process of and what the four-year colleges are expecting. And that changes a lot. It changed over the time I was there. So in that respect, I would like to make you guys on the board aware of some of the things that I learned. And I still intend, and I'm still active as a statewide member of a couple of things, a couple of organizations, and I surely keep up with what's going on in those areas. And I think to keep you apprised of that would be my responsibility.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Carter, this is Jeanette Nichols, and my question is, Cape Fear Community College serves many roles within the community. Can you articulate the different focuses?
Well, sure. First, we have a college mission, and the mission of the college is plainly stated in our handbook. And when I was on staff and faculty there, one of the most important things I did was try to live up to the mission of the college and to send that mission out into the community. We added a lot of courses because part of that mission is to increase the cultural awareness of the community of what our college does. And one of the things that I'm most proud of was the creation of the Wilson Center. That was one more aspect of education. You know, a lot of people don't even realize that's a classroom. It's not just a beautiful auditorium, but there are 40 odd classrooms in there that are in music, art, drama, religion, philosophy, communication arts, film. It's not just a place to go. So that's one of the areas that I feel like gives me some background in and leadership in developing, as well as the fact that I've also been involved in the vocational side. At Alamance Community College, I taught 12 years in photography and advertising design, which was in vocational, not the transfer program, but vocational education. So I think I have a really good background in both of those areas that I can bring to this position.
Thank you.
Mr. Carter, I'm Bill Rivenbark, and my question is, the community college administration and the board has asked that our appointee have an industry-focused background. How does your candidacy match that request?
Well, like I said, I did work in vocational technical programs for the first 12 years of my community college work. And I have a very clear understanding of meeting needs of communities. In the Alamance area, of course, we had Greensboro on one side of us and Raleigh-Durham on the other, and we were sandwiched in between, so we could look at the needs that factories, and of course, unfortunately, some of those outlets are gone now. The textile industry basically evaporated. But during that time when I was there, we worked very closely with business and industry to be sure that we were fulfilling the needs and developing programs that they actually needed. And once again, I was in commercial art and advertising design. No, I can't draw a straight line, but I could be a sort of a magnet for industries and businesses to come to me and say, this is what we need. Can you train someone as a furniture photographer, which is one of the specialties we had, or can you train someone to do design work, quilts, or other textiles? That's another thing that we did. And so I kind of feel like I got the best of both worlds over my career in the community college. And I know I can translate both vocational, technical, and college transfer to the community. And by the way, vocational technical is not the only vocational technical aspect, because business administration, we have in the college transfer program, we have a business administration transfer as well as one for the two-year student. And we have nursing, of course. We can do a two-year nursing degree, not just the associate degree nursing, but also the steps toward an RN. So there are intermingling of those areas as well as a separation of them.
Thanks, sir.
Sure.
This is David Wharton. Last question. How can New Hanover County Schools and Cape Fear Community College work together to best serve our students?
I think we attract the complete gamut of student. I have had students who were right out of the GED program, and I've had some that were had scored 1,500 on the SAT. It really, we were such an eclectic group of students that it required the ability to adapt and to individualize and to help students understand that they do fit into the wide range of academic or vocational programs that we offer. And also, I don't know on the just advising level if it's true, but I know that in the department chair and faculty advising areas, we wanted to look very carefully at what a student could do and be successful doing. Not that we wanted to fit them into pigeonholes or to create something that was sort of predetermined for them. We wanted them to sort of lead themselves into the guidance and the counseling position, so that and encourage them to be very honest with themselves and what they could do and what they wanted to do. And I think being honest with students and being straightforward with them and helping them to achieve as much as they possibly can in the two-year period that we have them. And incidentally, we did have students for longer than 2 years sometimes. We had a lot of students that would come back. We had people with 4-year degrees that would come back into the, so we want to be able to guide those students as well as to just say, well, this is where you're going, or your degree says this. We want to have the student in control.
Mr. Carter, those are all the questions that we have for you today.
Sure.
I appreciate your time. The board appreciates your time. Again, as I said to Ms. Carlson, you're welcome to stay on this Zoom meeting if you prefer. We do have 3 other candidates that we will be speaking with, and then we will be taking the vote.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Bams, do we have Ms. Maxwell on the call?
No, ma'am. We are running a little ahead of schedule. I have emailed our other applicants,
Okay.
and I'm hoping that they will join us early.
All righty.
Lisa, why don't you tell some jokes or something until somebody shows up?
I think you're probably much better at that than I am.
Oh, me.
Oh, yeah, we really are. We're 10 minutes ahead.
Here we are.
Ms. Stat,
Yes, ma'am. I see Miss Maxwell.
Yes, we have her on. Thank you.
Great. Hello, Ms. Maxwell. Thank you for joining us a little earlier than your scheduled time.
I had my clock set to come on time, so I just turned it off.
Well, if we hear an alarm, we know what it is. We appreciate you joining us and for being here and applying for the trustee position. I believe you do know the drill, but we will go over it again anyway. We do have 7 questions that we will be asking. We'll take them in turn with the different board members. So if you are ready to get started, we'll go ahead and get going. Is that acceptable to you?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Ms. Adams?
Good evening, Ms. Maxwell. Thank you so much for being here tonight. My first question is, or the first question from the board, what skills, experiences, or attributes will you bring to this position?
Skills, experience, and attributes.
And attributes, correct.
Well, 1, I have been a community college attendee myself. 2, I am part of the community, which Cape Fear, this is looking for someone to represent the school board as a community person. Attributes, I have 2 degrees. The first one being in business, which is needed for being on a board because you're looking at the process of how keeping a community college viable and intact, and also assisting with programs and things like that. So I think I bring a variety of skills, and I'm very open-minded to learn more about what is available there. And also have already networked prior to this interview with people out expanding minority presence in certain programs already at the school. This just happened to come up afterwards.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this evening, Ms. Maxwell. What do you see as the role of the appointee?
The appointee is there on behalf of the school board to represent the best interests of not only as a representative of the school board being on the board of trustees, but also looking for the best interests of the school as Cape Fear itself as it moves forward. Some community colleges are stellar, and we've had a great reputation. We've introduced that Lyman program down there. I say we because it's the community that has been very successful. Did you know that the average OSHA pay Department of Labor is $70,000 for that position?
Oh, good for them.
And it's only a 12-week program, but you start off, your average pay could average out to that.
Oh.
Ms. Maxwell, what do you see as the role of the Board of Trustees to Cape Fear Community College?
The Board of Trustees has a very important fiduciary interest to ensure that Cape Fear Community College remains accredited, it stays in good standing, is able to do what it does with the direction of the chair president of the board, that they are there to make sure that programs assist in the not day to day, but making sure that the school maintains where it's at by how they decide on things, in my humble opinion.
Ms. Maxwell, this is Judy Justice, and thank you very much for being interviewed today. The question I'm going to ask from the board is, what responsibility do you think the appointee has to the New Hanover County Board of Education and the students of the school system?
The appointee would have the responsibility of ensuring that there are programs that would be accepting to students from the Hanover County School, which there are quite a few, to allow entry into Cape Fear Community College. They've introduced quite a few lateral programs with UNCW. increase some programs, like for nursing students. There was a wonderful one they made about a year ago where you could get in, get more credits and go, which was very refreshing for the New Hanover County school students who I know who graduated that year who were planning on nursing. They're going to get a very big reduced rate if they did all the paperwork to inform them and their parents about. So I think that's the role, to make sure there are things that will make it receptive to students, because it's community college is a lifesaver for people. I've got classmates who had their MSWs who started at Cape Fear because they were able to save those funds that they would have spent in a traditional school and then move forward. For some people, it's a matter of residency, but I think that's the responsibility, to make sure that the programs are in line. And then as a person reporting back to the school board, to make sure that we know that our students are doing what they need to do that's in line for them to go to Cape Fear and be successful.
Thank you very much for your answers.
Ms. Maxwell, this is Jeanette Nichols. And my question is, Cape Fear Community College serves many roles within the community. Can you articulate the different focuses?
Well, Cape Fear has a lot of different focuses. They've really answered the need of the hospital in terms of offering different, and the community in terms of offering different health programs, like the dental, X-ray tech, or different things. They've answered the need in terms of having stuff for people who are business people in the community, with the big center, which I've signed up for something right now through their online class that I need to complete. They offered a class on how to do a web page, because my web page is a little shaky. They've also reached out to students and potential students within the community. They've also sought to educate the community in a more overall sense, with like the Wilson Center and different things like that. So they do a lot of different things in different areas within the community. And they're all in the continuing ed classes that allow those who are already in the workforce to gain more skills within their area, and the continuing ed programs that allow people to improve what they're doing anyway. And some of the programs are really good. My daughter graduated from their CMA program 5 years ago. I can't believe it. And that was a blessing for her, because you could go to Millamont and do the same program. And I hate to tell you how much more money one would have to owe. Yes.
Ms. Maxwell, this is Bill Rivenbark. My question is, the Community College Administration and the board has asked that our appointee have an industry-focused background. How does your candidacy match that request?
Well, I retired, sir, as a social worker, not in industry, but my undergraduate degree was in business. I supervised the staff of 6. I can read a budget. I go through the counties, and everyone's as that. So sometimes just saying an industry focus, while I think it's wonderful that the board wants that, but here I go again. And I also, as you both know, over a local 501c4, not 3. And I just lean on the fact that everyone is a business. No matter what you do, if you start out with something, gradually it elevates to where you have to have business skills and acumen. So I'm thankful that my undergrad was in business, so that as I go about doing whatever I do, I'm able to use that skill set even today in working on things and working with the community.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ms. Maxwell, this is David Wortman. Last question. How can the Hanover County Schools and Cape Fear Community College work together to best serve our students?
They're doing a good job. there's always room for improvement, and no matter what anyone does, sir, that's to be said. I would like to see more students, in fact, utilize what I mentioned previously, going to a community college versus going off, no harm intended, to a traditional four-year school. Because right now we're in a very severe economic times, and if a child can be encouraged to go to a community college and offset those funds for themselves and their families, that would be great. I've got students graduating talking about, oh, my student debt is coming up in 6 months. And I understand that. One thing we could consider is that in Brunswick County, where I retired from, they have something that's called the Odo Williams Scholarship. And to my knowledge, we don't offer anything like that, or did I not read, in New Hanover County to students who will be going to Cape Fear.
I do not. I don't know if anybody else is aware of any
The school
particular.
system does not offer any sort of scholarship through the school system except for our teacher scholarships, but that is open to Cape Fear Community College students.
What she's referring to is Brunswick County actually, I think, Ms. Maxwell, correct me if I'm correct, that if you graduate from a Brunswick County high school, they'll pay for 2 years at Brunswick County Community College, correct?
Yes, sir. You're correct.
That's wonderful. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
It's
Brunswick
been
County.
around for a while.
Thank you, David. Wow. Interesting.
But they have a smaller population of students also.
Yeah, you got a point. Yeah, we got one of the biggest community colleges in the state, I believe. Wow.
Ms. Maxwell, those are all the questions that we have for you today. We do have 2 other candidates to interview. You are welcome to stay on the meeting call, and then we will be voting in open session at the conclusion of the interviews. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. How would that work? I would just be blanked out till you finish the interviews?
No, you are not blanked out. All of the candidates are welcome to stay on and hear the process. The way that process works is we will be taking nominations from the board, from the floor. So the first candidate to get consensus is the nominee for the trustee position.
And this is different from last year, Ms. Maxwell. That's probably why you're a little confused. It's a new process.
I am.
Yes.
And
And
explain it, I hope.
Yes, I preach. It's similar to how it is almost exactly similar to how we do chair and vice chair. We open up the floor for nominations, and we will keep going until we get consensus. So we may be quick, maybe here a while. I'm not sure. All the candidates you all have been amazing so far, and I fully anticipate the last 2 being the same way. So as per usual, we'll have a tour ahead of us, which is a good problem to have.
Mm-hmm.
I think I will wait to hear from you, since you have 2 more to interview at this time, which would be, oh, that wasn't bad.
Fair enough.
Is it possible, Ms. Adams, I could come back or I could just text Ms. Adams? If I leave now, I'm gone.
I think you can come back.
Ms. Adams, can you answer that technical question? I am not sure. I believe you can come back on the meeting.
Great. She may rejoin whenever she'd like.
All right.
Thank you, Ms. Adams.
You're welcome. And
Thank
we do have our next candidate.
Thank you,
Yes,
Madam Chair,
I can see
members of the
both.
board.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Maxwell. All right, I can see our next 2 candidates are here and awaiting their turn. So welcome. We will now be speaking with Jason Macleod. Mr. Macleod, thank you for joining us. Mr. Is it Paradis?
Parody.
Parody, excuse me, Mr. Parody. We will be talking to Mr. Macleod first. I think you probably heard, and then you are welcome to stay on the line, and then we will be talking to you next.
Okay, great.
Fair enough?
Thank you.
All right, great. All right, Mr. Macleod, again, welcome. Thank you for being here. We are going to be following a similar process as to last year, asking questions. The board members will be going around in turn and asking a question. And unless you have any questions you would like to ask at first, we will go ahead and get started. Is that okay?
That sounds good. Thank you,
All
Madam
right.
Chair.
Yes, thank you for applying. All right, Ms. Adams.
All right, good evening, Mr. Macleod. My name is Stephanie Adams, and I have the first question. What skills, experiences, or attributes will you bring to this position?
Thank you, Ms. Adams. I had to scroll my screen so I could see you.
Sorry.
Thank you. I have been very actively involved in various organizations, both professionally and volunteer-wise, for all of my career. And most recently, over the last 6-7 years, I've been heavily engaged with economic development, particularly here in southeastern North Carolina. And in the roles that I've served there, I completely understand and the need for workforce development and the community college piece. And this is something that's just very important to me. And as a father of 3 kids, young kids in New Hanover County schools, I've been very interested in this position, serving on a community college, because I think it's just a very, very valuable institute for our region. And it really has an opportunity to continue to shine and provide. So my attributes, if you go back through my career, my resume, been in leadership, collaboration with people, strategic planning. I've been involved with fundraising. I've been involved with management, executive leadership. But overall, I think I tend to get along with just about everybody and have a level-headed mind. And those are all good things that I believe will attribute to me being a successful member of any board.
Thank you very much.
Mr. McLeod, good evening. How you doing, sir?
I'm well, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, well, what do you see as the role of the appointee?
Well, that's a good question, because that is a question I would have back to this board also, is just understanding the protocol and reporting back to you and understanding, that role. But definitely the appointee has a fiduciary responsibility as a board member to fulfill the mission of Cape Fear Community College. So as being a representative of the local Board of Education, I certainly like to have the collaboration of this body and the leadership of the county, but at the same time would have a responsibility to the community college and the citizens as a whole, and the state of North Carolina as a community college. So that's what I see as the responsibility. It's a very big one, and look forward to an opportunity to serve there.
Mr. McLeod, what do you see as the role of the Board of Trustees to the college, the Cape Fear Community College itself?
The role of the Board of Trustees is to oversee the operations, make sure that it's on task, both financially, being forward thinking, planning ahead, giving some direction to programs to make sure that we're able to meet the needs of the local industry, local students, be an educator to our community so we can help grow our workforce and provide a path for people to make a better living for themselves.
Good afternoon, Mr. McLeod, and thank you for coming in. I'm Judy Justice.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What responsibility do you think the appointee has to the New Hanover County Schools, Board of Education, and the students of the school system?
Well, I think it's a very important responsibility. I'd like to see a lot of engagement between that board and the New Hanover County schools and the board that you all represent. I think it's important that we collaborate and make sure that the curriculum in the schools is matched up with what's being offered in the community college, and that students understand what's available to them at the community college. They understand how to get there, how to pay for it, and what the outcomes can be for them long term. And I understand as our society has progressed, it's becoming more and more important to introduce the things that are being taught in a community college at a younger age. I think for a lot of us, we learned about vocational things in high school, but it seems like that is pushing down into middle school now a lot further. So I feel there's a big need for collaboration and strategic planning between the organizations.
Thank you very much.
Mr. McLeod, this is Jeanette Nichols, and my question is, Cape Fear Community College serves many roles within the community. Can you articulate the different focuses?
Excuse me, Ms. Nichols, can you repeat that, please? Sure.
I have severe allergies. I hope you can. Okay. Cape Fear Community College.
In my room,
Pardon?
so your allergies in my 5-year-older.
Cape Fear Community College serves many roles within the community. Can you articulate the different focuses? Want to hear it again?
Sure, I'll do my best. Certainly, workforce development. I believe that's very important. It also has to do very important with the arts and community, preparation for transition into higher education, traditional 4-year careers, or excuse me, not 4-year careers, 4-year colleges. That's an important element of it. And then as an institution, I think it needs to stand on a solid reputation for providing a very good value and a solid education and solid opportunities for everyone within the community.
Thank you.
Jason, my question is, the community college administration and the board has asked that our appointee have an industry-focused background. How does your candidacy match that request?
Thank you, Mr. Reinbart. I think my experience primarily in where I spend my time in economic development, and also my professional career is with a engineering firm in town where we work in the construction and development world. You know, that is a driving force in our market, and I see a lot of the needs for the trades, and I think the community college has done a great job of addressing some of those. But from a local industry standpoint, I have firsthand experience being at the table when industry comes to town, looking around, shopping our area to bring their corporate headquarters, and to understand their needs and how we deliver it. And we've been very fortunate that we've had good partners with the community college, being at the table and being able to put together the training programs that are available, and to partner with state agencies and other grant opportunities to fund these. So being industry specific, I can just tell you that getting the industry here is key, and then the local industry that's already here on the ground, being in constant contact with them and understanding their needs, which I would say any time in the history that seems to be very dynamic and changing rapidly right now. So it's very important that we have engagement with them.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. McLeod, David Wortman, this will be your last question. How can New Hanover County Schools and Cape Fear Community College work together to best serve our students?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Wortman. The bottom line is working together. Collaboration is the key word that I know I've repeated probably a couple times here today, but I find that that's the best way to work between two bodies, two institutes, or two entities. And in their ability to work together, they need to be nimble, particularly in this environment today, or that we've seen in the last, even just the last 10 years. I mean, just think about the change that's happened in southeastern North Carolina and Wilmington, the dynamics of the economy, the dynamics of people moving to the area, then the dynamics of our workforce needs and our industry. We need to be prepared for that. And how we do that is we need to be very forward thinking and just kind of anticipate what's around the corner and make sure we have the resources in place to address those needs. And then we need to maintain our strong and be trusted and reputable. And that's the key, working together. Thank you, Mr. Warman.
Mr. Macleod, thank you for your time and for your answers. We will, I think, as you've heard, we have one more individual to speak with, Mr. Parody, and then we will be opening the floor to nominations.
Thank you, Madam
All right.
Chair. Thank you, members of the board.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Parody, you are up, and I have your name correct. Is that right?
Yes, you do.
All right, great. Great, thank you. And thank you for your interest in the Board of Trustee position. Welcome. I think you've heard the kind of the drill that we're going through. Each board member will ask you one question, and then you are our final candidate. So we will be opening the floor to nominations upon completion of your interview.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Adams, would you like to get started?
Good evening, Mr. Parody. Stephanie
Good evening.
Adams. First question. What skills, experiences, or attributes will you bring to this position?
I think that the biggest attribute is listening to other people's views and accepting different opinions. I serve currently with the Rotary Board. I've been on several other boards as president, treasurer, almost every position. So in my practice, I have about 2,000 clients that are very diverse and have different needs, different opinions. And as I tell everybody on my staff, you can't solve problems without listening to other people's views. So I'm very good at listening to what other people have to say, considering what they have to say, and coming to some type of agreement to go forward.
Thank you very much.
All right, sir. How you doing? Thank you very much for joining us.
Good, how are you?
I'm excellent. What do you see as the role of the appointee?
Basically, I think the main job of the Board of Trustees is to oversee the president and the community college, to make sure that the president is doing, their job to how the board seems fit. I think they owe a fiduciary responsibility to the community to make sure that that position is done well, and to the law of that North Carolina has, and to the bylaws of the college.
Ms. Justice?
Oh, my goodness. Okay, sorry about that. So busy listening. What responsibility do you think the appointee has to the New Hanover County Board of Education and the students of the school system? And thank you for coming in, by the way.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I think there's a huge responsibility, from elementary all the way up. One of the big reasons I'm such a big fan of Cape Fear Community College. I've had two children of my own that, in my opinion, were saved by going to Cape Fear Community College. I had one that went to NC State, completely dropped, got back into Cape Fear, found a passion, found a love, got his GPA up, got back into UNCW, and graduated and is now doing well. And I had another one that couldn't get there. Initially to a four-year school, Cape Fear got him to where he needed to be. I'm constantly telling my clients what a value that the school is, and that the opportunity that it gives to every kid, whether they're a four-year college candidate, whether they're a technical trade candidate, and to reach out to these high schools and make sure that we're communicating these opportunities to these kids. We have, with the Rotary Club, we have a endowment with Cape Fear. And one of the things we were finding with the scholarships was we were finding it difficult sometimes to give it away because they were saying that the high school students didn't know about it. So to me, it's important to make sure we communicate with the school board and the school system to make sure that we're showing these kids what value and opportunity they have going to Cape Fear Community College.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Parody, this is
Yes, ma'am.
Jeanette Nichols.
Hello.
My question for you is, Cape Fear Community College serves many roles within the community. Can you articulate the different focuses?
Well, I think first and foremost, the focus is education and providing opportunity for students, regardless of whether it's 4-year, 2-year, trade. So I think that's the main first focus. I think the focus is, again, on providing opportunity in a lot of various trades for children to be able to get into and find a path. Obviously, they're involved with the Wilson Center and those aspects. They're involved in diversity programs throughout the community. I think their responsibility as a good steward for the university and the system is important. So I think there's very, all the things that go back into getting back to the number one priority, which is the education aspect of it.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm next. Okay, Stan, the community college administration and the board has asked that our appointee have an industry-focused background. How does your candidacy match that request?
Well, Bill, it depends on how far you go back in my career. I started off at Siemens, which used to be over on Carolina Beach Road, which was, somewhat industry, and really a definition of what is industry. I own a CPA firm. We deal with everything from manufacturers to physicians to pharmaceuticals to insurance companies to basically every other type of service and restaurant that there's out there. So as far as industries, if we're talking about manufacturing industries, I worked at one in my career. I also do several manufacturers around town. I don't bring, the experience of Jason, obviously, which is, being in the economic development aspect of things. But yeah, I mean, my background throughout, various industries, I think is extremely important because again, it brings various viewpoints. Am I going to bring, black soda Wilmington? No. But am I going to have the understanding of industry? Absolutely, because I probably have over 800 clients that are businesses that I deal with constantly on a regular basis. And obviously, when you're dealing with that many people and that many different needs, you have to learn a lot about different industries and what makes them tick and what makes them go. And so, yeah, very experienced in a variety of industries. I wouldn't just say manufacturing, but more or less across the board.
Thank you, sir.
Sure. This is David Wortman. Last question for you. How can New Hanover County Schools and Cape Fear Community College work together to better serve our students?
I think again, David, it's outreach, it's education between each other, letting them know what we offer, letting them know what we're doing, listening to the school system and the school board and saying, what do you guys need? What programs are relevant? What outreach and education to get people to understand what is offered is critical. And I don't know how that's happening now or whether it's happening well or it may or may not be. I just think that we've got to figure out a way to touch more kids, especially inner city kids, and give them a hope and an opportunity that there's a trade or there's something out there for them at Cape Fear to get them where they need to be. So I think, again, that communication between each other, listening to each other, trying to figure out a solution that can work to make the kids understand that there is a golden opportunity at Cape Fear.
And Mr. Parody, I apologize. My internet is a little spotty, so I did not ask my question. I'm going to ask it now, if that's okay.
Sure.
What do you see as the role of the Board of Trustees to Cape Fear Community College?
Again, I think the number one job is the fiduciary responsibility over the president and the direction that the board and the bylaws indicate that we should do. I don't want to say I'm a yes man. I don't want to be a yes man. I want to listen. I want to figure out and make sure what's right is what's right for the kids first, the school second, and then honestly, the rest below that. I think the job of the board is, again, to have a responsibility to oversee the direction, the finance, the long-term direction of the college, and to make sure that the president and below are doing the job that they're expected to do.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
That completes all of the questions, and that completes all of our interviews. I want to thank all of the candidates who are still on with us. At this time, if there are no questions from our board, I would open the floor to nominations. Let me remind the board that we do need a motion and a second, and then we would have time for discussion at that point.
So no discussion beforehand, just the nomination?
What we would do is motion, second, and then open for discussion if there is any, and then we'll take the vote.
Okay.
So is there a motion?
I would like to
For any
nominate.
board member?
I would like to nominate Justin Macleod.
Do you mean Jason Macleod?
Jason Macleod, I'm sorry.
Right. All right, is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, there's a motion from Mr. Rivenbark and there's a second from Ms. Nichols. Is there any discussion?
I think I would like to say, you know, everybody that's applying is talented. There's no question about that. Just lots of talent. But, you know, I heard one time a baseball coach don't make a good baseball player, and a good baseball player don't make a good coach. Everybody has their own talents, and I think Jason has some of the things that we need at Cape Fear Community College. Because, I mean, with the times that we're in, we're going to need some fundraising. We're going to need to bring industry in town. We're going to need to retool Cape Fear Community College, and I think that he can do that. Just my thoughts.
Well, I would like to say that I'm going to second what Bill said about all of them are very talented. We are blessed again with an overabundance of a group of people that are talented. So that I just wanted to say that, not supporting or not, you know, or disappointing or whatever you want to call it, but I just didn't want to second that part.
Thank you, Judy.
Oh, you're welcome. And all of them have got very different skill sets, and they bring a lot. So yeah.
Every one of them could help us, but I just want to pick the one that I think can help us the best.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Adams, how do you vote?
Nay.
Mr. Bullier, how do you vote?
Nay.
Ms. Justice, how do you vote?
Nay.
Ms. Nichols, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Rivenbark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Wortman, how do you vote?
Aye.
And I vote aye. So it appears that we have a consensus.
Were we going, well, this is an interesting concept, how we're doing it this way.
Yeah, I misunderstood the instructions. I thought that we had to come to a full consensus that all 7 had to agree.
That's what I thought too. Consensus is like everybody agreeing.
That was my understanding when this started today.
That's probably not ever going to happen.
Well, it's my understanding from Ms. Stagner that we have to have consensus, we have to have a majority.
Okay.
But we can certainly, she said she would, but she certainly can be, she said she would be available to discuss. So if you would like to get her on the line, we can certainly get her on the line to discuss it, since it is a new format.
Correct.
So if you would like, Ms. Adams, would you mind asking her to get on the call?
It's my pleasure.
Okay.
Because as I had said, they have all got a variety of talents. Fundraising is only one. I mean, all these people are very good. I would like to have more discussion on all of them. And I thought that's what the point of consensus was. And just discussing one candidate amongst ourselves is really limiting what our outcome would be. In my opinion, that's what I thought consensus meant. We need to be clear ahead of time, and I wasn't clear on what the process was.
So, and again, I recognize that this is a very challenging sort of environment that we're in here with all of us being virtual. So I certainly want to take the time to make sure that we're all comfortable with it. And the fact that we're doing this in a way that is different than we have done it in the past. So let's take the time to talk to Ms. Stagner and make sure that we're handling this the way that she agrees that we should handle it. I don't want any questions there.
Because I would have spoken up during discussion. I'll just say, I mean, during when the discussion portion was opened, I would have shared some of my thoughts had I realized that this was the final. It could have been the final decision.
Right. Because, yeah, I also have things to say about all of them.
There was no indication from Ms. Stagner that we had to have a complete 7-0 vote. So if I've led you to believe that, then that's my fault. So let's make sure that let's get Ms. Stagner on the phone.
Yeah, the final line in the email was the candidate receiving consensus, and consensus and majority to me are two different things. And so that was where I think the confusion happened.
Absolutely, because I worked in consensus situations before, and it was everybody ultimately coming to an agreement. But that was from discussion and looking at all aspects. That is what I am familiar with consensus.
So certainly what we can do is retake the vote. And if that's what Ms. Stagner advises, and that's certainly what we can do. And have more discussion.
We couldn't get a consensus that the world is in a hell of a mess right now between the 7 of us.
Well, I don't know about that these days.
Well, I do. I do.
I think we agree on that. We would just disagree on the reasons why.
That's
there you go.
Right, but it wouldn't be 7-0, Nelson.
No.
Board members, I'm trying to reach her, and we'll be with you in just a few minutes, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tabitha, did you send her the link?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay.
Chair Eastep,
Yes, ma'am.
I believe we have Ms. Stagner on.
Thank you. Ms. Stagner?
Yes.
Hi, thank you. This is Lisa Eastep. Thank you so much for being on the line.
Certainly.
We have a procedural question. I let the board members know that you and I spoke earlier today about how the vote should be taken.
Yes.
And we have a question about whether or not we need a 7-0 vote or we just need a majority vote. And I believe I may have confused the issue by saying we needed consensus.
All right. Let me very quickly, unless the board has a policy that would require a unanimous vote, then it should be just a majority vote. So I am going to look very quickly at your policies about appointing the trustee. It does not appear that there's anything in this policy about a unanimous vote, so I believe the usual rule of a majority of the board members present is sufficient.
So there was some confusion on the part of board members when we initially opened the floor for a nomination, and some of the board feels like they didn't have a chance for discussion. Should we retake the vote?
There's already been a vote.
There has been.
Our understanding of the word consensus, which was used, varies. And it's definitely the term majority vote never came up. We really didn't have a chance to discuss because we didn't realize this is what the process was going to be, so cut and that was it. Or on my part anyway.
And I'm in the same boat. In the email, it said that we were reaching consensus, and I read that as we were going to have a 7-0. And so when I voted, I was voting thinking that we were going to continue to keep going.
So what happens if you go through all the candidates and you cannot come to a 7-0 vote?
Well, you don't have to have a 7-0 vote. So the question is then, what do you do now that you already have a vote? So,
and Deborah, I did say that it was similar to how we vote for chair and vice chair.
Right. So you would keep going. If you could not get a majority, then you could, you would have to continue going. So just looking at my parliamentary procedures here, you could have a motion to reconsider by a board member who was in the majority in the vote that already occurred. So someone who voted, I assume you had a candidate who was approved by the vote. So someone who voted to approve that candidate could make a motion to reconsider. Then you could open discussion back up.
So since I was the one that led to the confusion, I will make the motion to reconsider. Is there a second?
I second that.
All right. Any discussion on that? And candidates, please understand that this is not in any way reflective of you. I just want to make sure that the process is fair and above board and that all board members are comfortable with it. We are, again, operating in a new virtual reality here. And I just want to make sure that everyone feels comfortable with the way the process is going.
So what do we do now?
Okay, so now you need to vote on the motion to reconsider, and if the motion to reconsider passes, then you may have a discussion, and then there will be a vote on the original motion, And if that original motion passes, then that would be the decision.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion by me and a second by Ms. Justice. Ms. Adams, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Bullier, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Justice, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Nichols, how do you vote?
No.
Mr. Rivenbark, how do you vote?
No.
Mr. Wortman, how do you vote?
No.
And I vote aye. The motion passes 4-3. So we will now open it back up for discussion. Is that correct, Ms. Stagner?
That is correct. The original motion is now on the table again.
Okay.
So you may have your discussion, and then when that is done, call for a vote on that original motion.
Okay, so the original motion was to consider the candidate, Mr. Macleod. And is there any further discussion on that?
Well, I'll start it off. The strength that Mr. Rivenbark brought up about fundraising is very important, but so are so many other ones. For example, and the names, the gentleman, and I guess I could grab it over here, that actually worked at the school, he was incredibly with his background knowledge as far as what is needed and how the school operates. I mean, each one of them did had different strengths. I'll use Miss Maxwell. She is very familiar with the community, and at this point, what's going on, we need her, in my opinion, if the community were to have a voice on that board, her representation would speak loudly about it moving forward in a very progressive way for all members of the community. That's just one example. I mean, there's 5 people, and each one of them brings the strength. So I would like to see more of a discussion on that. Fundraising is important, but so is the academic end. So is working with other people. Mr. Purdy. I was very impressed with him also. So these are the kinds of discussions we need.
I would say, I think that there's strength in diversity and diversity of experience, diversity of knowledge. And I feel these candidates are all very qualified and they all bring a very different voice. And, Mr. Macleod, it's wonderful to have an economic development voice in there, but you have some of that already on the Board of Trustees. And so it's a lot of the same thought processes. And when you're having similar thought processes and similar experiences, it's tougher to push through innovation and change. And this is an opportunity for our board to look beyond how we've always done it and look to new candidates that maybe haven't had a voice within our community. And I appreciate all that everyone here brings to the table, but I think it would say a lot for us to look at a candidate that maybe steps away from what we typically see on the Board of Trustees. I think Ms. Carlson, with her background in social work and the view that she brings with the disabilities is incredibly important. That was a very valid, it's a voice that I don't think has been heard at the Board of Trustees level and would have people think differently. I'm with Ms. Justice. I think Ms. Maxwell, with her community engagement piece, and she represents a portion of our community that hasn't really had a voice. And I think that would be very valuable to see on the board. And I agree, I like Mr. Carter's experience, having had experience in the school. He's not just, he's very well versed in it and he understands where they've been, but he's also open to vision and where can we go. So I think, Mr. Parody and Mr. Macleod both, they bring that business knowledge, but how much of that business knowledge is already present on the Board of Trustees would be my only consideration.
Ms. Adams, Ms. Justice, I'll echo those sentiments. I do think there is some redundancy on the current Board of Trustees with those skills, and I do think that just some variance on that board at this time would be valuable, very valuable.
I mean, we're moving forward. We need young people engaged. Part of that is being willing to change because that's literally what young people are about. I mean, they're into, all over in our schools, in our communities saying, listen to us. And we want somebody that looks like us and we want somebody that knows what our needs are. And, the other, besides the business community, there's other people that we can have that could come into that conversation that's really lacking on the board now. That would be very important for the future. It's time we did something along the lines, not just look at the business end, but also look at the community end, the social work end, the visionary end, a voice for minorities, an active voice has done a lot of positive good in the community that's very respected. There's a lot of other things besides the business angle that we need to be looking at if we're going to be moving into the future and making a statement about everybody represented in our community on that board.
And I don't disagree with anything that you all have said. Personally, Ms. Carlson, I love your background. I love your work with the disability community, and as somebody who serves on the state board, I know that is one of the gaps in our community colleges. That is one of the communities and that is underserved. I would love to think that our board would consider a more diverse board from the community college or on the community college for the trustees. Everybody that we've interviewed, Mr. Parody, your accounting background, I'm an accountant. We could probably talk all day about tax season. It's great to have such a strong group. Each one of you bring strengths. I think my concern is we're going to be here a very long time trying to come to 4. Because we have such strong candidates. So I don't know how we're going to come to an agreement, come to 4 on a single candidate with such strengths.
But it's very important, I believe, that we do that.
Mm-hmm. We have to.
Because when we started right off, we didn't have this discussion. This is the kind of discussion that we needed from the get-go, because we need to look at all the different candidates and what we're looking for in the future. I think we're articulating it very well right now.
We are.
So, at this point, I hope that it's opened some perceptions about what's important outside of just one certain area, so we can move forward with at least looking at that information.
And understanding too that there are other appointing bodies and that we need to be talking to those other appointing bodies about looking at that diversity piece that we've all spoken about. So the governor and the commissioners also have appointments. And we all really should probably be talking to with one another. I don't know that the governor's going to listen, but we should be talking to our county commissioners.
Well, we have this opportunity right now to do this from our end as far as the diversity piece goes. And as somebody, our schools need to have, as you said, Ms. Carlson, she's excellent, and we do need something similar to that as far as special needs. And then the situation with the actual community representation, as I said, to have somebody on there that actually looks like, probably almost half of our students would be very powerful. Like Ms. Maxwell, who definitely is known and respected throughout the community. So this is our chance to do something like that. By postponing it and expecting the governor or somebody else to appointment, then we're not really taking on our responsibility as we should, because we're the educators. We're appointing somebody on that board as educators, what our kids need. That's what we're supposed to be looking at, is what our kids need. And it's challenging enough in our schools that when our kids look out at their teachers, they look out at their leadership, we don't have a true reflection on them or for their needs necessarily. So I would like to think that we're going to be basing this more than just, I'm going to be straightforward with you, on a business background than other things. And that's what unfortunately I'm hearing. And we already have plenty of people on that board that's got that background.
Madam Chair, this is Mr. Macleod. Am I allowed to make a comment?
Ms. Stagner, are we allowed to hear from the candidates themselves?
Well, I think that is a decision that is up to the board. And if you want to give the candidates an opportunity to address the board, you can certainly do that.
Ms. Eastep, I don't think because we don't have all candidates that are available right now that it would be fair to any of the candidates to allow them to speak.
Just ask a question.
Good point.
If I may just ask another question.
I agree.
Well, other people are not in the position to be able to, they're not all online right now. So it's not anything reflection on you, Mr. Macleod, it's just a process.
They weren't voted 4-3 a few minutes ago either.
That's because we didn't understand the process, Bill.
Well, that's your fault.
But if this is the issue, none of these questions about diversity or experience, none of y'all know my background from a diversity standpoint. So if that's the issue, why weren't those part of your questions in the interview process? That's my only question. I don't need an answer, just gonna throw it out there.
Well, a lot of what we were seeing, and I'm going to be straightforward here, weren't just coming from the letter of interest, but also resumes and backgrounds. And you just submitted one letter. You didn't give us, unless you didn't reach us. I didn't really see anything about your working with other roles in the community, or except for that letter, and your education background and work background.
Again, I don't think it's constructive to start criticizing candidates at this
Oh,
point.
I don't want to. I'm just saying that's where we got that.
This has gone way outside what I think we intended it to be.
Yes.
So at this point, I mean, I would call the question for the vote.
Ms. Stagner, are we on, procedurally, are we following the way that we should be following the rules?
Well, again, there's a motion that's on the table and there's been discussion. And so, if the discussion has been completed, then there's a call for a vote. Unless someone objects and thinks there needs to be further discussion, then you would vote on the motion that's currently on the table.
All right. Before I call for everyone's vote, I would like to thank all the candidates who are currently with us. Obviously, this is a very emotional process for everyone, and we all have very strong views. And I would like to thank you very much for applying for the position. And I certainly hope that you stay interested in this process and understand that some of these candidates have applied several times. So it is no reflection if this is not the time, it doesn't mean it will never be the time. And again, I would like to very much thank you for taking the time to apply and for your interest. So at this time, the question has been called, and I appreciate all the board members your discussion. At this time, I would like to ask for the vote. And Ms. Adams, how do you vote?
No. Repeat the question.
Sorry, the motion was to accept Jason Macleod as the nominee trustee for Cape Fear Community College Board of Trustees.
Okay, thank you.
And the original motion was made by Mr. Rivenbark. And remind me who the second was. It was Ms. Nichols, it was you, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So Ms. Stagner, is that correct? We have to stay with the same people who made the motion and the second?
Yes, the same motion is there. There's no further discussion. You can call for a vote.
Okay. Ms. Adams, how do you vote?
No.
Mr. Bullier, how do you vote?
No.
Ms. Justice, how do you vote?
Nay.
Ms. Nichols, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Rivenbark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Wortman, how do you vote?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion passes 4-3. So,
I'd make a motion to adjourn.
before you do that, Mr. Macleod, congratulations. Again, thank you to everyone else who applied. We do appreciate your time, and we hope you do apply again. Thank you. There's been a motion by Mr. Wortman to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bullier. Any discussion?
Madam Chair, I would just add my thanks to the candidates, and I would say, Mr. McLeod, thank you very much. I look forward to serving with you, and please understand that my vote was in no way a reflection on your abilities or your integrity. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, and I look forward to working with all of you and serving this board.
I just would echo what Nelson said to all the candidates as well.
Me too. Thank you very much all who applied, and thank you. Congratulations, Mr. McLeod.
It would be nice if we could get some of them in our system. I've never seen so much talent in my life. There's a bunch of them that I sure would like to have helping us.
Maybe, Stephanie, you can get them on your committee with the community and schools.
You may be hearing from me.
They would be a tremendous asset.
If there's no other discussion, Ms. Adams, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Bullier, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Justice, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Nichols, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Rivenbark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Wortman, how do you vote?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Stagner, for hopping on.
Hey, Bill, I told you we could get to a 7-0 vote.
There you go.
I'll talk to you about that tomorrow.
In fact, we actually do lost 7-1, nothing, yeah.